In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, and it is Monday, the 19th of October. And since it is a Monday, I'm Kevin Wade, and I'm joined in the studio by none other than our show's founder and inspirational leader, none other than Rick Trader. Rick?
Kevin, great to be with you again, sir.
It's always great to be with you here in the Conservative Commandos Radio Studios. That's WNJC 1360 AM and around the world on the Internet. And www.conservativecommandosradioshow.com and www.ccrshow.com and a whole bunch of other places. It's Monday. There's always a news brewing, and there's always a great lineup of guests that we can offer our listeners. So, Rick, why don't we quickly go through who our guests are this day?
All right, Kevin, why don't you lead off?
Well, at 3:35, just after we finish the first long break, we're going to be joined with the president of Club for Growth, none other than David McIntosh. He is a leader for principles of limited constitutional government and individual freedom. And Club for Growth is a leading advocate for economic liberty, as well as a major donor to conservative small government candidates around the country. And he's going to talk to us, that's David McIntosh, about his view of, Donald Trump, the Donald.
The Donald.
And then at 4:05, who do we have coming in, Rick?
Well, at 4:05, we have Mario Lewis. He's a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, where he writes on global warming, energy policy, and other public policy issues. Prior to joining CEI, he served as the Director of External Relations at the Reason Foundation in Los Angeles. And during the 106th Congress, Mario served as Deputy Director of the House Government Reform Subcommittee on National Economic Growth, Natural Resources, and Regulatory Affairs. We've asked Marlo to join us today to discuss an article that he has wrote and is posted on CEI. Are the RICO 20 guilty of racketeering? So that'll be Marlo Lewis at 4:05.
And then at 4:35, to give it a bit more of a local flavor, and in consideration that we are in October, heading rapidly toward November, and then November leads into the holy season, we're going to have join us at 4:35 Judy Travis. Judy Travis is, best described as like the nicest neighbor lady you ever met, who took it on herself about a dozen years ago to stitch up a few Christmas stockings for some soldiers who were serving overseas who may not have family. And what grew from an effort to stitch up and fill up a couple Christmas stockings has now turned into something quite remarkable. I believe they delivered 1,800 stockings this past Christmas. There were tons of materials being sent to Iraq and Afghanistan. And frankly, to many soldiers who really don't have a family back home and who get nothing other than this stocking. And she has brought in, thousands of volunteers. Thousands of volunteers to stuff, first of all, sew the stockings, stuff them, package them, put them into crates and cartons and load trucks. And it all started with Judy Travis. So at 4:35, Judy Travis of Stockings for Soldiers will be joining us to explain a little hometown miracle.
Kevin, every now and then I hear about something that I say the conservative commandos need to get behind. This sounds like one of them. It sounds like one of these projects and programs we really need to get behind and promote.
And I happen to know Judy Travis, and it's Christmas stockings. She's Jewish. You talk about
God bless her.
Is this a great country or what?
God bless her.
Is
God
this
bless
a great country or what?
Indeed. Kevin, you're going to have a commentary for us a little later?
I'll have some rambling comments because I'm a little bit limited on the keyboard. If you bring in camera 3 on the close-up, you'll see I have an extensive bandage on my typing hand. And that's because I had a little bit of a hand surgery done. It'll all be good as new soon. That's what they promised me, soon. Mm-hmm. But in any event, it'll be a rambling monologue rather than the well-crafted, tightly written commentary that you and Mateo. And Mateo's here in the studio, so let me comment that we have with us one of the most talented, creative forces ever to sit behind a soundboard.
Well, I think he's the most creative.
So good, he goes by one name, Mateo.
Well, I think seriously, and I'm not just saying this because he's here, I think he's the most talented person here at WNJC 1360. Kevin, anybody that can put together a YouTube video and get over 1 million hits, Mateo, how many hits is it now? 1.5 million. 1.5 million hits. One of his videos has gotten on YouTube. To me, that says it right there, but I seriously think Mateo is the most talented person here at WNJC. And every once in a while, we do let him on the microphone.
We let him make some noise once in a while. That's Mateo. Yes. That's Mateo. That's my introduction to the audience for why we have things go so well on Mondays.
All right.
And let's kind of hop through some of the news, if we could, in the remaining 2 minutes before we go into our first hard break.
Okay.
What has caught your eye besides, just what has caught your eye?
Well, I'll tell you what's caught my eye. It was a little something that one of my Facebook friends posted, and I investigated it. And with the stroke of a pen, California Governor Jerry Brown made it legal for physicians in the state of California to prescribe lethal doses of medication for their terminally ill patients who wish to end their lives. Brown signed the End to Life Act into law Monday in California. So what amazed me is also coming out of California, the wacky state, was an opinion coming from the Los Angeles Times. Opinion. Studies. States with easier access to firearms have higher suicide rates. So leave it to the liberals, Kevin. Leave it to the liberals. They want it on both sides. On one way, they say, oh, you can't have a gun because it's too easy to kill yourself if you have a gun. And on the other hand, they have a governor who signed a bill to make it legal for physician-assisted suicide. The liberal hypocrisy.
Liberals would be nothing if not hypocrites. It's not. We caught them. Okay, they tripped on something. They constantly live in a world of delusion and hypocrisy, and it's just testimony to how they view life.
Yes.
From the unborn to our very most senior citizens in the final weeks of a life well lived. They are never safe on either end, and I frankly will say somewhat in the middle from the dangers posed by liberals. Amen. Life just is not regarded by liberals. Their lives are regarded, but not your life.
Well, they care so much about the 41,000 suicides across the country. They say committed mostly by people using guns, or more than half of the 41,000 suicides are committed by people using guns. But then they pass laws, physician-assisted suicide, and they don't care about the millions that are killed every year through abortion. But guns. Oh, you can't kill with a gun. Can't kill with a gun. Hey, Kevin, maybe that's how we outlaw abortion. We pass a law that every abortion must be committed with a gun, and then they wouldn't want abortions anymore.
Well, it has the same result. Unfortunately, liberals don't see it that way. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world. Yeah, I said around the world. On the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, and AM, FM 24/7. You guessed it, theallending.com. You stay with us. We will be right back.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1380. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
And he is, and you are, that certainly is Colonel Alan West, a great friend of the show. And I guarantee if you can hear my voice right now, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. It is Monday, the 19th of October. We're past midway in October. I'm Kevin Wade, joined in the studio with none other than my good friend and co-host, Rick Trader. Rick?
Kevin, great to be with you again on this beautiful, beautiful October afternoon. And Kevin, I've said many, many times, the fall is my favorite time of the year. We don't have the heat and humidity anymore. We get warm days, cool nights, beautiful, beautiful afternoons like today. It's great to be alive.
It's great to be alive, but the school buses are out again, and I pass a number of schools on the way to the studio on Mondays, and I noticed there is a driving time distance and difference. But the leaves are changing here in the Mid-Atlantic. We've had some very, very nice weather. And a bit of a cold snap in the last day or two, a little bit colder than normal, but it just kind of puts a spring in your step as you got to pick up your pumpkin and some apples.
Kevin, last night was the first frost. Mm-hmm. Okay, we did get our first frost last night. Some of the plants did not make it through the night and the morning, and I want to thank them for being so beautiful all summer long. Sorry to see them go.
And we turned on the fireplace, which in the pioneer spirit of the Wade residence involves turning a switch. So we actually turned a switch to turn on the fireplace for the first, actually two fireplaces for the first time over the weekend, because my bride and I have some disagreement about when central heating should be turned on. So as a marital compromise, and marriage is filled with compromises, we've agreed to turn on, one of the spot kind of in the corner gas fireplaces that takes a chill off the house. Or if you let it go on for about 9 hours, it heats the entire house.
Well, Kevin, I'm one of those crazies that still likes to go out and split the wood. I get a big enjoyment out of that. It's great exercise. And when you swing that axe and split that log perfectly, it's like swinging a bat and making perfect contact with the baseball. And since the playoffs...
And what happens when you don't split it cleanly?
It's like striking out. It's like striking out.
I had the occasion many, many years ago in my life to stay with some friends during the wintertime, or part of the wintertime, in a home heated only with wood. And it was a judgment call whether or not you wanted to spend the extra half hour outside in the cold and the gray and the damp splitting wood to drag in for an extra 20 minutes worth of heat, or whether you'd prefer just to kind of be generally chilly inside but not go outside and get chilled to the bone trying to split more wood.
Kevin, have you ever seen this documentary? It plays all the time on PBS called Alone in the Wilderness?
Mm-mm.
Have you ever seen? Well, it's a documentary. This guy went into Alaska when he was 50-some years old. He lived up there for like 36 years off the land, summer and winter. And when he talks about having the fireplace going and his cabin is a toasty 40 degrees, that makes me appreciate central heating. It really does.
Well, that's the nature of nature. We talk to our liberal friends who tell us that we're intruding in Mother Nature and in the environment. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, it's the environment's first and last wish that we be dead. The weather will kill us. Mm-hmm. The elements will kill us, Rick. It's not a matter of being comfortable. If we did not modify the world around us, we would freeze to death in the wintertime. We would die from exposure even in the summertime. And we would be poisoned by drinking contaminated water. The idea that someone could live in some pristine environment in harmony with nature is ridiculous. You have to modify nature in order to protect your own life. We generally are not covered with enough hair to give us any warmth. And we don't have toes on our feet to allow us to climb trees readily. We have to live by our wits, and part of living by our wits is, in fact, changing the environment around us. So that's just the reality. It's not a cruel reality. It's not an uncruel reality. It's simply the reality. And the reason our elderly have nice, long, sunset years living in health and in comfort is because they have air conditioning in the summer. They're not being killed by being stressed by the heat. And the reason our children no longer pass away 1 out of 3 in childhood to childhood diseases is because we've learned much about how to master infectious diseases and vaccinate our children and give them a healthy diet, and they thrive. These are all good things. This is what makes God smile. That's probably why the liberals object to so many of these things.
Well, Kevin, that's what you call progress. And that's what you call progress. And as we're talking about things today, split and weight, heating the homes, 80% of rural France still heats their homes by burning wood. And why is that? Because the price of energy in Europe is so high. And yet you've got people in this country, liberals, who keep screaming that we have to demonize fossil fuels. They mean coal, oil, and gas. Well, how would they like us to heat our homes, Kevin? Maybe the old cuddle up and snuggle at night. That'd be a good thing. But that would add to a population boom. But it's called progress. In my opinion, Kevin, the greatest progress has been made in the last 100 years because of electricity. In my opinion, there is no one thing that has brought people out of poverty the way electricity has.
No, the amazing thing about electricity is it delivers power through a flexible cord. It bends. Okay, prior to that, you had a water wheel with a shaft. Mm-hmm. And you could use Mother Nature to create power far greater than your own 2 arms and legs, but you had to be connected to that shaft. But with electricity, you could bend power. You can have a power plant 12 miles away, and it spins fans in your kitchen. You can flex it through the walls. You can turn it off and off on demand. You can light to push back the dark. You can use it for cooling and stifling heat in the summertime, and you use it to heat yourself in the winter. It does all these miraculous things, and you can make electricity out of basically anything that burns. Yes, liberals, I did say burns because you have to create heat in order to create steam, in order to spin the turbines, in order to spin the generators, to put current into your house. But you have to have a flame someplace, or you can use nuclear fission. But that also gets pretty hot. You do the same thing. But yeah, that is the key, that we've been able to harness power and get it into basically every home in the United States to use at will. You don't have to use it. It's just there in that switch on the wall to turn it off or turn it on. And that is absolutely remarkable. And that has unburdened humanity from having to go out and chop wood 4 hours a day. They can
unless you want to.
Unless you want to as a recreation, but not as a necessity. But we have a new necessity coming up, and that's because it's 3:30. That means we're going into a hard break. If you'd like to hear, I want to remind you, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, and at our flagship station in Philadelphia. And around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Abundant Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, AM, FM 24/7. They all end in .com. My name's Kevin. I'm here with Rick. You stay with us. We'll be back with our first guest in about 4 minutes.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, conservativecommandosradionetwork.com and ccrn.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Kevin Wade. I'm joined by Rick Trader, our show's inspirational leader and founder so many years ago. And we are now the Conservative Commandos Radio Network with conservative content from early on till late on. And we're in the heart of the schedule, as we always have been. I am delighted to welcome to our show, as I believe, a returning guest, David McIntosh. He's a leader of he's president of the Club for Growth, and that is a role where you need to be a leader for the principles of limited constitutional government and individual reform. And as president of Club for Growth, he's a leading advocate for economic liberty, because it's only with maximum liberty that we find maximum prosperity. And with that, let me welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, David McIntosh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be back with you guys.
It's good to hear your voice again on the show. And as you know, we have a well-informed audience. And you have been really active in giving some voice to the conservative movement and a love and respect for the Constitution for many years. And you have recently put together you pointed us at least to a column about Donald Trump's credentials as a conservative, and we wanted to bring you on the show to have you talk to us a little bit.
Delighted to, and let me set the table, if you would, for that. The Club for Growth, every presidential cycle, does extensive research on the candidates running, particularly Republicans, who should be the standard bearers for free markets and limited government. And we publish these. They're not biased in favor of one candidate or against a candidate, but shows how they voted if they were in the legislature, how they governed as governor, public statements they've made, if they're people like Donald Trump who haven't been in office but over the decades have commented on public issues. And with that, we get a sense of how, would they be pro-growth candidates? Would they be people who'd stick up for individual freedom and free markets? Or are they Republican name only and more sympathetic to the big government, or part of the establishment here in Washington that kind of goes along with the liberal push for growth of government, even while they campaign as conservatives? This cycle, we saw there were a lot of very good candidates in the Republican field. 3 of them we had endorsed for their Senate races, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz, and we kind of pointed out they were the gold standard for pro-growth, strong conservative voices. But in Donald Trump quickly emerged as somebody who, in the past, would have better fit in the Democratic primary. In fact, he himself is on tape saying that for most of his life he was a Democrat, regarded himself as a Democrat. And that's because he supports things typically they do. Tax increases, single-payer, government-run health care. He's against free trade. He's for and has a long record of supporting politicians who use what's called eminent domain to have the government take individual private property, turn it over to developers to redevelop into something new. It flies right in the face of one of the core principles of economic freedoms, and that's private property rights. And we realized we had to tell voters in the Republican primaries the truth about what he's been for in the past, because he now is masquerading as a conservative and telling everybody that's what he would shake up Washington. Well, I'm all for shaking up Washington. I think the establishment on both parties have done a terrible job the last decade and continue to just allow things to decay, where there's an all or nothing. We have to accept all the spending from the past, or we'll let the president shut down the government. And we need new leadership who will break through that. But it's clear to me Trump wouldn't be a difference in that regard. He'd actually make it worse, make the problem worse.
What then seems to be, as you would see it, the reason he appeals to apparently so many Republicans?
Yeah, so at first we made, kind of the call that, well, this isn't that serious, because, when people realize what he stood for in the past, they wouldn't support him. So I had to think about that, and our group had to think about what is it that's appealing for a lot of conservatives. And by the way, our polling shows it's not ideological. It's conservative, moderate, even some liberals support him, mainly because he's been the most forceful at saying Washington isn't working, and you need to send somebody new there to get it to do what it's supposed to do. That's a message I actually wholeheartedly agree with, that the establishment in both parties, including my party, the Republican Party, have just failed to follow through on their promises of turning the economy around, reducing the size of government, cutting back on spending, and it's become essentially Obama's and Harry Reid's show every year on the budget. So Trump, that has given voice to that frustration and anger at the political establishment, that they promise to do conservative things when they're running for office and then get here and don't. The problem we had with him is his record shows when he gets here, he wouldn't either.
That's it seems to be the situation our republic finds itself in these days. They don't trust the existing passel of leaders in Washington, and they don't seem to be using a very critical eye toward who outside of Washington offers themselves up. But clearly, Dave, there is an anti-Washington sentiment, because you can look at Dr. Ben Carson, who's a completely different personality, completely different man, completely different life story, and he is in many polls running right behind Donald Trump.
Yeah, in fact, in our poll, we focused on Iowa with some advertising telling the voters the truth about Trump and his record, and focused also on that eminent domain issue about private property rights. And after we ran those for about 3 weeks, we went and re-polled the voters and saw that Carson actually had moved into the lead, because people were leaving Trump and looking for somebody else who wouldn't be part of the establishment. The voters now will want to look at his record and see where he's come down on small government issues. And same thing for Fiorina, where she's gained support as the outsider. It'll be interesting, because I think Ted Cruz has an opportunity, even though he sits in the Senate now, he has bona fides of fighting McConnell to do more to repeal Obamacare. Marco Rubio has a strong message about being a non-establishment Republican, and I think you'll see the race start to change. Now that people have kind of accepted Trump's there, okay, we got to compare him and his record to everybody else.
It's these are strange times that we live in, that those people who have really built their careers by conveying a message and communicating to people are just being overawed by folks whose the sum of their campaign can be termed, "I'm not from Washington," and you brought in Carly Fiorina. So you have Carly Fiorina, who's completely different than Dr. Ben Carson, who's completely different from Donald Trump, And all three have caught a segment of at least the Republican voting base, Republicans who follow this. And they're they're each engaging in their own way. But they're not from Washington. Dave, we're coming into a break. Could I ask you to stay with us so we could continue this conversation after we take a short 3-minute break?
I'd be happy to.
Thanks so much. We're on the phone with David McIntosh. He's president of Club for Growth, and he's bringing his insights as to what in the world is going on the Republican side of things. I'm Kevin Wade. I'm joined by Rick Trader. Well, we're going to take a brief break. You stay with us. We will be back on the other side.
Crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Thank you for staying with us. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com. and www.ccrshow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. That's not 8:59. Don't jump the gun. It's not 8:58. Hold your horses. At 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, or at 1 p.m. for you late risers, log on to www.roar, that's R-O-A-R, or radio.net. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos anytime from any telephone on the planet by calling 832-999-1199. That's 832-999-1199. And the reason to listen in tomorrow morning is to hear again the interviews that we have this afternoon. And right now we have David McIntosh, president of Club for Growth, and he's giving us his insight as to the outsider in Washington phenomenon here in the 2016 presidential cycle. Dave, thanks for staying with us.
My pleasure.
Carly Fiorina, Dr. Ben Carson, two completely different people, different life stories, different people in every way. Donald Trump, different person, different life story, different in every way, and they each have a strong appeal to Republican voters. And it seems to have perplexed folks in Washington. They certainly understand that Washington is held in low regard. But I don't know, maybe what's at work is the American people haven't given up on America yet. They truly do love their country, and they might love their country more than they love their party's political leadership.
Oh, absolutely. I think the reason there have been Republicans in the past wasn't, for some of them it was, this is my party, I'm going to stick with my team. But for most of them, it was the philosophy of the Republican Party would stand up for principles of limited government, for individual freedom, for the opportunity for somebody to, if they work hard, to have a chance to become the next Bill Gates. And for all of the good things that our country has stood for 2 centuries, of the land of opportunity and the home of the brave and the free, that's the vision that attracted them to Republican leaders, and now they've seen them either be incompetent or unable to lead in that way, or most suspect maybe they really never did believe that. They were being played to get their votes, and that's made them really ticked off at Washington. And the leaders here are saying, "Who, us? I'm shocked. Gambling going on in this establishment." I mean, it's really, if you know, I've been in and out of government in the executive branch and in Congress. I've worked with a lot of conservative groups. I'm now at the Club for Growth, where we champion people who will be strong advocates for economic freedom and limited government. And I've seen how the game is played, and I think this is going to be a year where we could see the people rise up and say, we want something different, and if you don't give it to us, Republican Party, you know, we may go elsewhere, which I think is a recipe for disaster, by the way, because then you have Republicans split and the most socialist Democrat gets the nomination and becomes president. I mean, I think anyone who thinks about it knows we can't have a third party.
I'd love if the left had a third party, but right of center.
Yeah, exactly. Let them be frustrated with their corporate.
Ralph Nader, where are you? Are you listening? And that means that the party leadership is going to have to move to where the people is. The people find themselves. You have to move to the people. And if this is the year, and it's early yet, but if this is the year of the Washington outsider, then the party leadership has to move to embrace those leaders, even if it's only a temporary change. But if they seek to isolate those figures, there will be a rising sentiment to begin to isolate Republican leadership. My co-host Rick Trader has his hand up, waiting politely to ask a question. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we are speaking with David McIntosh, president of Club for Growth. David, a lot of my friends on Facebook have been listening to Donald Trump, and what he has been saying about immigration has been resonating with him. I wish the words coming out of Trump's mouth were coming out of somebody's mouth like a Ted Cruz. But I have been referring a lot of my Facebook friends who are all goo-goo gaga about Donald Trump to the Club for Growth website. In the article, Why Donald Trump Should Not Be Taken Seriously as a GOP Candidate. And as it points out in this article, that Trump on trade, Trump has called for a 20% tax for imported goods and a 25% tax on China. How do you think that would affect our economy?
It would be a disaster for us. We now live in an age where our economy is intertwined with major trading partners all over the world, and they're not people that are free traders the way we are, but they're trade with us because it's in their interest economically to do it. And frankly, we benefit from trade with China. We get less expensive iPhones, for example, and because components are made there. One of the people that Trump decided to go after was Ford Motors. I noticed he didn't go after GM, which for a while under Obama stood for Government Motors, but he did pick Ford, the one company that didn't get the bailout, because they make auto parts in Mexico, bring them across the border, assemble the cars here, and the net result is people who buy Explorers have a less expensive car, and we are able to build and continue to build the final product and the value-added items into it because our workers want to get paid a much higher wage rate, so they've got to produce higher value products to do that. If he started slapping that kind of tax or tariff on it, it would disrupt the trade. It would end up the cost of it being borne by middle American families in more expensive everything, and it's an economic disaster waiting to happen if you give way to that impulse. Now, defending it, I try to do that, but I can't. It takes me at least 30 seconds to a minute to explain to people why free trade is a good idea, whereas Trump can just stand up and rant against China and Mexico. And so that means we've got to do the hard work of persuading them that we are all better off when we have free trade.
Dave, but one of the most basic measures of free trade is that it benefits both sides.
That's right.
And there's an awful lot of people in this country who say, I don't see a benefit. And that is part of Trump's appeal. Now, I think he just blows up the entire trade system if he tries to impose duties of this size and sets us off into some 1930s downward spiral. Or he could be the smartest guy in the room, and it's a negotiating ploy, and he's going to settle for 7% plus guarantees that the Chinese are going to start buying $35 billion a month in new American goods and services. But I think it's not a question of where we are in reality. It's a matter of perception. And there's an awful lot of Americans, and I can tell you in my zip code, who used to work at a General Motors plant or used to work at a Chrysler plant, to say it's not working for me. And if free trade is good, then it's good for both sides. Hey, I want you, we're coming up in the last minute and a half. Tell our listeners, Dave, how they can learn more about Club for Growth. What is your website, how they can lend a hand, how they can get involved.
Yeah, delighted to. So the best way to find us is at clubforgrowth.org on the Internet. There is a public site. I'd invite your listeners to join. There's no cost to joining, but then as a member you can get into the membership area where we have profiles on the candidates we're supporting. The bread and butter of what we do, by the way, is elect House members and senators who are champions for smaller government, limited government, economic freedom, and pro-growth. And you can see who we've supported there. We also have a scorecard available that ranks every member of Congress and how they voted in the last Congress on economic issues. And you'll be surprised to find a lot of Republicans get D's and a few of them F's on our scorecard. We don't use letter grades, but they're in the 50s and 60s, whereas our champions we would expect to be there in the 90s. Nobody's going to vote 100% with you. Oh, one person does. Amash does up in Michigan. But most of them, there are a few things that we disagree on, which is fine. But 90% is an A in my book, and I'll even take a B plus with some of these guys. But our goal through our affiliated PAC is to elect more of them. So what we would ask your listeners to do if they like what they see is sign up to get our letters when we endorse a new candidate, and then we call it bundling, but they can make a contribution through our website to support those new candidates. We send 100% of the money directly to the candidate as a hard money donation. We have a third entity that is a super PAC that we raise money into as well that helps. We spend it independently, so we will, for example, with Marco Rubio, we spend a lot of money on our own advertising to help him be senator. Same thing for Ted Cruz. Same thing when they supported Murdoch against Lugar in Indiana, my home state. But begin by starting at our website, clubforgrowth.org, and join up, and we'll get our weekly newsletter and information about the candidates and what's going on in Washington.
Dave McIntosh, President, Club for Growth, thank you so much for being with us on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network.
My pleasure. Keep up the good work, telling the truth and spreading the word.
Thank you. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world, around the entire world on the Internet at CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, and AM, FM 24/7. I'm Kevin Wade, joined by Rick Trader. You stay right here on the dial. We will be right back with our next guest.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. we're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
He is, but you're not. You're not listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. You're listening now to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, because we have grown so much through the years, carrying truth out over the airwaves and across the internet. Just had a great interview with Dave McIntosh, the president of Club for Growth, and that's what makes this show so special, is we really do get the most timely guests. And we have that discussion that you're not going to hear in other venues. And our next guest, Rick Trader, my co-host. Rick, our next guest is on the phone. Would you please take the honor of making her introduction and leading this interview?
Certainly. I want to welcome Marlo Lewis back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, where he writes on global warming, energy policy, and other public policy issues. And prior to joining CEI, he served as the Director of External Relations at the Reasons Foundation in Los Angeles. And during the 106th Congress, Marlo served as the Staff Director of the House Government Reform Subcommittee on National Economic Growth, Natural Resources, and Regulatory Affairs. Marlo, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you very much, Rick and Kevin. And guess who the congressman was who was the chairman of that subcommittee? David McIntosh.
Is that right?
That's right.
Now, that wasn't planned or anything for today, but wow, how about that?
I know. It's just some people might think there's a conspiracy going on here.
Well, there are conspiracies.
We hope so. We actually hope so. We want to be a part of it. We're trying to save our republic.
Right. That's what it takes.
Marlo, talking about conspiracies now, you have written an article that's posted on CEI entitled, "Are the RICO 20 Guilty of Racketeering?" And you write, controversy continues to swirl around the September 1st letter from 20 climate scientists to Barack Obama, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and White House Science Advisor John Holmgren, suggesting a RICO, Racketeering Influence and Corruption Organization, investigation of, quote, the fossil fuel industry and their supporters. Please tell us about this, Marlo.
Yes, this letter has been much discussed in the blogosphere, and my piece that was on the CEI blog was also picked up by Anthony Watts on his blog. What's up with that? And it's a great, if people want to look for it there, they can actually comment on it, and I may actually respond to them. But anyway, the whole idea of this was really suggested by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island back in May. He He said it was time to use this statute, RICO, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, to investigate fossil fuel companies and their allies for denying climate science and for opposing policies to save the planet from global warming. And this is a statute that was really designed to bust up racketeering organizations like the mafia. And so now the so-called self-anointed consensus of scientists or politicians who want to speak for them or invoke this consensus now want to use this act in order to silence their opponents and to punish opponents of the Obama administration's climate policies. So that's what this is really about. And what I did is this post that I did is in the nature of turnabout, being fair play. I said, okay, look, I mean, I don't try to get into the legal nitty gritty, which only an investigation could find. But I said, look, by judging by their own criteria, these guys are as guilty of racketeering as the people they want to sick this law on. So I raised this question: aren't they themselves? Are they themselves guilty of racketeering? Because their thesis is really it boils down to this: that they claim that there are serious risks of climate change, which they allege have been hidden from the public by the fossil fuel companies and their allies, which would include people like me. Now, that anybody in the public would not know that there's a whole bunch of scientists out there saying that this is the end of the world. You know, you'd have to have turned off your TV and your internet and your radios and not read newspapers for the last 20 years. But if anybody is denying or hiding risks from the public, I say it's these folks, because there are also very serious risks of climate policy, because all these policies are designed to restrict and eventually eliminate the world's access to the most affordable, reliable, scalable forms of energy that we know right now, which are fossil fuels. And those can have that would have horrendous consequences for public health and welfare, especially in poor countries, if this is done on the schedule, the time scale that they're talking about. They're talking about, for example, a treaty that they're negotiating that they hope to conclude in Paris in December, which would basically require the world, at least as far as the Europeans are proposing, the world would have to reduce its carbon dioxide emissions from fossil energy 60% below current levels by 2050. And you have to remember that most of the emissions growth is occurring in developing countries, the countries that are now industrializing for the first time, and those are countries where over 1 billion people don't even have electricity, and where billions more barely have enough electricity to operate a toaster oven intermittently during the day. And so there are huge risks to public health and welfare from the policies these guys are promoting, and yet they never acknowledge them. They hide them from the public. And so I raise the simple question, why? And it's because their funding agencies, because let's say 98%, for example, the head of this group of scientists who wrote this letter is a guy named Jagdish Shukla of George Mason University. 98% of the $63 million that his research institute received in funding since 2001 came from the very federal agencies that are pushing and promoting the Obama climate policies. So there's an obvious conflict of interest here. He's basically attacking or trying to attack the opponents of his funders. And so I actually think that RICO has no place in settling differences of policy, different viewpoints in policy or different viewpoints in science. But if these guys are going to try to advance a RICO investigation based on their rhetoric, then I say their rhetoric can so easily be flipped around against them that either these guys are just completely lacking in self-awareness, or they're so arrogant they think that that they're untouchable, that it could never backfire on them.
Marlo, you talk about a RICO investigation, But apparently, a lot of these wackos, that is mild compared to what Robert F. Kennedy wants to do.
That's correct. And I actually linked to that. He once said that it was time to start treating the heads of fossil fuel companies like traitors and prosecuting them for treason. And he didn't say this, but all you have to do is check in the Constitution. The Constitution clearly defines treason, and the usual, which is making giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States. It very narrowly defines it. But the usual penalty for treason is death. And so he was calling for capital punishment. He kind of later backtracked a little bit as he was pressed on this. And there are you also hear some of these guys say it's time for Nuremberg trials, and because they call people whom they oppose deniers, which is supposed to remind you of Holocaust deniers, and in some of them they actually, like Jim Hansen, once who was a climate scientist who formerly at NOAA, who is called the trains that deliver coal to the power plant that may run your, that may provide electricity to your community. He called them death trains, evoking the image of the trains that led, millions of Jews and others in Nazi Germany to the slaughterhouses. And so that's, so what do we do with people who are responsible for the Holocaust? Well, in some cases, like, Adolf Eichmann, we execute them. Mm-hmm. And so that's the extreme to which they're pushing their agenda.
Well,
they're trying
Marlo,
to criminalize policy differences and use the power of the state to silence and punish people they disagree with.
Well, Marlo, the left has a wonderful way of using verbal engineering to change social engineering. Hey, Marlo, we have to go to a break. Could you hold for just 2 minutes for us, please?
I certainly can.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, our flagship station, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, and AMFM247.com. Today's show is brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second, and our guest this segment is Mario Lewis. He's a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. We will all be right back.
Yeah, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcast of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. 1 p.m. in the afternoon by logging on to roarradio.net. And 6 p.m. in the evening by logging on to thepunditpress.com. You can also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Marlo Lewis, not Mario, but Marlo Lewis, who's a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Marlo, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm glad to be with you.
Marlo, in your article, you also talk about the stability of the Earth's climate over the last 10,000 years. Could you explain that?
Well, yes. I mean, it was a minor point, but these guys in their letter, the RICO 20, led by this fellow Jagdish Shukla at the George Mason University, argue that, the climate has been stable for the last 10,000 years, and that's what's allowed civilization to develop. And, yeah, the climate has been fairly benign over the last 20,000 years, but the idea that it's been stable is just false, and anyone who's studied climate history or climatology knows this. There have been basically 3 cooling and warming cycles just in the last 2,600 years, and then there was a major cooling in 8,200 years ago. And one reason why civilization was able to really take off 4,000 to 5,000 years ago was that the Earth was warmer than it is today. And there's just abundant evidence that in warm periods, mankind tended to do much better than in the cold periods. Like, for example, one of the reasons why the Dark Ages was called the Dark Ages was that it was cold. It was cold and dark, and then it was succeeded by the medieval warm period, which was then a time when started to have all this great cathedral building in Europe because there were economic surpluses that would support the construction of large long-term projects like the building of cathedrals. And then there was a period after that called the Little Ice Age, roughly from 1300 all the way up to 1850. And the weather got really stormy. Compared to the medieval warm period, there were episodes again of plague, and you had the failure of communities. For example, in Norway, there was actually a thriving Viking community there in the medieval warm period, but they got frozen out in the Little Ice Age, and it's still not warm enough now in Norway to support the vineyards and the cultivation of wine, which was possible during the medieval warm period. So these folks are just, I mean, their letter was just ridiculous. And one of the things that I pointed out there was that, look, these folks claim to be physicians of the climate. They are doctors of the environment, and they have remedies that are supposed to save us and make us all better. But if you look at any of the commercials on TV for any pharmaceutical product, at least half, sometimes more of the commercial is taken up advertising the harmful side effects. You know, almost anything will give you dry mouth, and then it goes from there. It's thoughts of suicide, reduced resistance to infections, to increased risk of cancer, heart attack, stroke, and finally death. So a pharmaceutical company will acknowledge that their remedies have downside risks, but you listen to these guys talk, and there are absolutely no risks to ratcheting back on affordable energy, that we can do everything that they ask, and nothing could possibly go wrong. And my view is that only a quack talks like that. Only a snake oil salesman will tell you that he's got something that will cure everything that ails you, and don't worry, there are no possible side effects.
Marlo, this is Kevin Wade. I want to thank you for being on the show. I kind of like that idea that the liberals should be required to read a long list of potential side effects that come with their global warming policies. It's going to cause dry mouth, impotence. I'm pretty clear that applies on the left, and cardiovascular problems. They simply are ideologues. They use science to
correct.
Some.
But in this case, and in many cases, they pretend to be objective scientists and therefore honest brokers. We're not a dog in the fight. We don't have a dog in the fight. We're just reporting the science. When in fact, these guys are advocates, and their livelihood depends on this advocacy. And that's okay. That's legitimate in American politics, in the politics of any free society. But don't pretend that you're something other than you're not. And by doing that, I think that you fall to your own critique, and under your own criteria, you should be prosecuted under RICO, just the way you want other people to be prosecuted under RICO. So that was my argument.
No, and this fulfills their generations-long ambition. We live in a carbon-based world. I'm a carbon-based life form. Okay, the grass outside is made of carbon. We live in a carbon world, and if you can convince the voters of the planet to give political power to control carbon in its many forms, you have given a political regime the right to control the entire planet. It is an authority and a power beyond what Roman Caesars ever experienced.
I think you're quite correct about that, and that does really scare me. And their policies are in many cases just implicit taxes, implicit carbon taxes. Some of them are openly for a carbon tax, but as John Marshall reminds us, the founder of our constitutional law, the power to tax is the power to destroy. And so to pretend that these policies, which are either open or implicit taxes, are benign and we have nothing to worry about, anyone who's been around the block knows better.
And if you want to track the quality of life for human beings on the planet, take a look at how much energy they consume. There's a difference between Miami Beach and Mogadishu, and I think it's much better to live in Miami Beach because I have so much energy available at such a low cost, and virtually all of it comes from carbon fuels in one kind or another.
That's absolutely right, and there's a wonderful paper that has just come out. It's called The Good News on Carbon Dioxide, written by a friend of mine, Indur Goklani, for the Global Warming Policy Foundation. That's a British think tank. But he has some wonderful facts and figures here about the progress that the human race has made just over the last several decades. All of it really supported by fossil fuel technologies. So, for example, between 1990 and 2012, an additional 2.3 billion people around the world gained access to safe water, and that's just gigantic. And an additional 2.2 billion people got access to improved sanitation. And so, fossil fuels are the main energy source for those technology, for that infrastructure. Or if you to look at another fact here. Between 1981 and 2010, the number of people in the world who were living below the absolute poverty line, which is defined as living on $1.25 per day, has been cut in half. So about 723 million fewer people live in absolute poverty today than in 1981, even though the developing world's population increased by more than 2 billion people. And none of that would have been possible without low-cost, dependable energy.
Marlo, we're coming up in the last 30 seconds. Please give our audience means to follow your work, your writings, and to stay current with you. Oh,
thanks so much. I mostly blog on a website called globalwarming.org, globalwarming.org. And then this particular post that we discussed today is available on whatsupwiththat.com.
Whatsupwiththat.com. Marlo Lewis, thank you so much for being with us on the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you for your service to liberty.
Well, we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the entire world on this thing we call the Internet. With CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, and AM, FM 24/7. They all end in .com. I'm Kevin Wade, joined by Rick Trader. Our final guest, and we're saving the best for last, is going to be with us in about 3 minutes. I hope you will be, too. Stay with us. We will be right back.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And that was Colonel Alan West, a great friend of the show. And if you've ever had a chance to meet him, as I consider myself fortunate to have met him on several occasions, he is everything he appears to be and then some. We've had a great show so far, Rick. Dave McIntosh, president of Club for Growth, giving us his view on this crazy presidential election cycle. And then we had Marlo Lewis from the Competitive Enterprise Institute talking about, some of the ridiculous positions taken by the eco-environmentalist wackies on the hard fringe left. And our final guest today is something that, has less political tension involved with the subject. We're about to interview Judy Travis. She founded Stockings for Soldiers. Now in its 15th year, hundreds of volunteers will soon gather to pack scarves, CDs, DVDs, toothbrushes, blankets, candy, and just good old-fashioned patriotic care into Christmas stockings for our soldiers around the world. Last year, thousands of homemade stockings were filled and shipped, all by volunteers. Judy Travis and her team of neighbors and friends and patriots are a great example of America and Americans at our best. And with that, let me welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Judy Travis. Judy, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing so well. Thank you, and thank you so much for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, thank you so much for all that you do. Tell our audience, if you would, the origins of Stockings for Soldiers. How humble were its beginnings, and then contrast it to where it is today.
Well, thank you so much. It was just a mother trying to make sure that her son had something to eat while he was deployed to Iraq. My son Scott went to Iraq after all the fighting had stopped and all the bad guys left. My son was with the 1st Armored Division of the Army. He was a graduate of West Point and went to Iraq. And he told us that there were no mess halls, there were not even a Burger King, there was nothing to eat, and they just had MREs. So, as any parent would do, I started to go to the grocery store and send him lots and lots of goodies and extras so he could share with his fellow soldiers. And when he told me that there were many in his group who never received any mail, they never got a card or a letter or a goodie box, I realized that's something that I could do. You know, we always ask, what can one person do? Well, this was something that I said, well, I can just go shopping and spend a fortune on food, but I'll do it. And so I started sending lots of boxes, and everyone that I met who who knew my son, who would ask how he was doing, I'd say, hey, can you send him a box? So he was deluged with boxes, and all of the people in his platoon and his company were thrilled to get all that extra attention. Of course, the snacks were wonderful, but it was the attention that they appreciated, that they knew that the people in America hadn't forgotten about them and they cared. So when he came home safe and sound back to Germany, I said, wait a second, I can continue to do this, because other families were going to be put in that same position that I had been put in, worrying about their child, and no matter how old they are, we always worry about our children. So I chose the holiday of Christmas because it was a perfect way, because the stocking can't even hold the items that we send. So we are busy. That first year we sent 288 stockings, and I was besides myself that I could make such a big difference. So fast forward, you gave me just a couple extra years. This is going to be our 12th year.
Oh, wow. Excuse me.
It's okay. It's quite all right. It's really my 13th because I sent it to Scott. But 2 years ago was our best year, and guess what? We sent 12,000 Christmas stockings to our troops. Isn't that awesome?
It absolutely is awesome. And it's all done by volunteers. Is that correct, Judy?
Oh, absolutely. All the people, I've got people all over the country who will mail me the donations that they collect in their own towns. So we are all over the United States, and actually some in Europe also.
Really?
Because they want to send us goodies to add to the pile. And all total, we've sent 68,000 stockings in these past years. And the thing that makes us a little bit different, we're not anything special because we're just one of hundreds and hundreds of support projects that military families are doing. But what we do that tries to do be a little different is we put the name of the person on that stocking who's going to be receiving that stocking. So when someone gets our stocking and they've never received any mail before, it will say their name on it, and we know we're making a difference in their hearts.
Where do you get those names from?
Because I'm part of the West Point Parent Network, I contact the West Point grads who are deployed and ask them if they would just send me an Excel spreadsheet of just the first names, and because I'm in an organization that they know and trust, they'll send me the names. Now, sometimes we're supporting groups that are tucked away in dangerous places, and they've asked us if we wouldn't mind just leaving the names off, and of course, we're glad to do that. But the bulk of the 90% of the stockings that we send do have the name on it, which is pretty awesome because we get our payment is a thank you note email from the troops, and when they see their name on the stocking, they just can't believe that we would take the time to do that, and that's what makes it special for us. And of course, could not do anything without 40 team leaders who work just so hard at my side, and then we have over 1,000 volunteers who will come in and offer a hand because we have so many different jobs to do.
And you put them, because my wife and I have been up there to help stuff stockings. You put us through a kind of a quick training program to know what the product flow is and what to do right and what not to do wrong. And everyone all of a sudden is kind of moving with the same tempo.
Exactly. We have more rules than the military probably because we've learned how to improve the process, how to streamline the process, and we know what works. So we actually do ask all of our volunteers to follow the procedures and the guidelines that we know are successful. And yeah, we call it controlled chaos because there's a lot of action going on and a lot of different jobs. So we have wonderful opportunities for young kids who can come in and volunteer. We have wonderful opportunities for senior citizens who remember doing this for their family members in World War II or in Vietnam, and they keep productive. And the sweetest thing I got a little thank you note from an elderly woman. She was 94 years old, and she wrote me a thank you. Can you imagine? I'm thanking everybody to help, but she wrote the thank you saying, thank you that at 94 you have allowed me to still feel that I can make a contribution to my community. Isn't that great?
I'll tell you, everyone can be a blessing in their own way. Judy, we're going to take, in about 30 seconds, we're going to go into a break. I want you to stay with us, if you would, through the break so we can continue the conversation. But I want to use the next 30 seconds for you to tell our audience how they can get involved.
Wonderful. Thank you. I will.
How can our audience get involved, Judy?
They can go to our website, stockingsforsoldiers.org. And 4 is spelled F-O-R. So stockingsforsoldiers.org. And the website has lots of ways they can help. They can go to the store and buy the items that are on our shopping list. They can, and originally we needed stockings, but we're just wonderfully, happily inundated with stockings. So we've got plenty of stockings, but we ask our knitters if they would like to knit hats for our troops, purchase socks and gum, candy, fruit roll-ups, ramen noodles, gently used CD music, music CDs, DVD movies, and books. All of the gently used products are wonderful.
And from your website, because these are guys, they don't want to read the romance novels, ladies.
Oh, we learned the hard way.
There's ladies serving, right? I'm sure ladies get, some of our lady soldiers
Rick, you
get.
have no idea how many romance novels one woman can have in her closet.
But you know what's really funny, too? These women are tough cookies, and they are patriotic and loyal and busy, and they're working out, and they've got to keep their PT going. So I bet you they don't even like those either.
So that's stockingforsoldiers.org. Stocking for Soldiers, that's spelled F-O-R, soldiers.org.
Yes.
And Judy, would you stay with us? We're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. I'm Kevin Wade, joined by Rick Trader. On the phone with us is Judy Travis, founder of Stockings for Soldiers. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. And we're broadcasting from our flagship station in Philadelphia, WNJC 1360 AM, and around the world on the Internet, CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Roar Radio, AM/FM 24/7, and they all end in, you guessed it, .com. I'm Kevin Wade. I'm joined by Rick Trader. We'll be back in 2 minutes. I want you to be there when we come back.
Yeah, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and www.ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., not 8:58, not 8:59. Hold your horses at 9 a.m. Log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. And for you late risers, at 1 p.m., you can log on to www.roarradio.net, roarradio.net. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any telephone on the planet by calling 832-999-1199. Some toll charges may apply. You check it out with your service provider. Judy Travis is founder of Stockings for Soldiers, a volunteer organization that sends stockings and care from home to soldiers around the world. And in my opinion, she represents what is great in America and Americans at our best. Judy, thank you for staying with us. My co-host, Rick Trader, has a few questions for you.
Yes, of course. Hello, Rick. How are you?
Judy, I'm great. I'm even better now that I hear about stockings for soldiers. And I want to congratulate you, and I want to thank you for having a wonderful son like Scott who is in service to our country.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judy, I love Christmas, and I love sharing Christmas. And what I want to do with you and with Stockings for Soldiers is I would love to work with you to put together a PSA, a public service announcement, that we can run on this station, not just on our show, free of charge, across the board, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. when our programs play, a PSA talking about Stockings for Soldiers, how people can get involved and how they can contact you.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. That would be a great help.
Something I want to do. And because I can, that's why I'm going to do it. Excellent. I'm going to also ask all the other shows that are part of the Conservative Commandos radio network to please play this PSA on their shows and with all their affiliates. And God knows who is possibly, or how many people can possibly hear this. Judy, I am just so motivated and thankful for what you are doing for our military, for our men and women that are serving our country. And I sincerely mean that, Judy.
Well, thank you. It's amazing that we have less than 1% of our population who have joined the military, who feel that calling, and I wish there were more people standing up for their country. But those that do stand up must know how much we value all that they're doing on our behalf. So it's really an honor for me. This is a dream for me to try to make a difference in this world, and I'm so grateful to all the volunteers who allow me to meet my goals.
Yes.
So it's a win-win situation.
Well, speaking of volunteers, I'm coming down to Delaware, and I'm going to help.
Excellent.
I'm going to help load those stockings. I'm also going to bring a video camera to videotape this. Maybe we can also put it up on YouTube. Because I think this, I cannot tell you, and I mean this sincerely, I think our listeners know when I mean things sincerely that I'm serious about that. I just think that this is something great that everyone needs to get behind. I mean that. But
let me just warn your listeners that we have two phases of the project. The first phase is we actually have nothing to stuff because we're waiting right now for the donations to come in. So that's what we're waiting. That's what we do the first half of the project. And then starting mid-November, approximately November 16th, is when we change the whole configuration of our store. We borrow a stocking store from one of our local malls owned by the Commando family. They've been very kind, very generous to us. So we're in a borrowed office space, and in mid-November is when we're going to start the actual stuffing process. And at that time, I would ask for all hands on deck to come and help us because that's a huge job. We're going to try for at least 10,000 this year, so we hope that we can do that many. But for you and any of your listeners who would like to come and actually stuff the stockings, you want to put on your calendar November 16th. Otherwise, we have lots and lots of jobs for the volunteers to do, but it wouldn't be actually stuffing yet.
Judy, Kevin Wade here. And what kind of donations? What are the donations in detail that you would like to have?
Well, first, I like to mention that we need all the items that go into the stockings. So on our website is what we call our shopping list, and that's easy. People can just print out the shopping list, take it to the grocery store, and look to see all of those different items that go into the stocking. And I always tell people, no pressure. We only need 10,000 of everything on that list. So there's no pressure. So just buy whatever's on that list, number one. Number two, we need a little money. And we pay, we've gone several different ways to try to get these boxes to our troops. And we've come to the conclusion that the really only way to do that is to send it directly to a specific person, the point of contact, the POC. And we send it to his or her address, and thus we send everything priority mail, first class. And so last year, our 1,200 boxes cost us $32,000
Wow.
in postage fees. So we would love if anyone would like to make a donation to help us with the postage. And we've never had a problem raising the money, so I'm assuming that this year we'll be fine also.
Judy, are you a nonprofit organization?
Yes, we are. We're a 501c3 Delaware nonprofit corporation. So anyone who would like to make the donation will get a receipt back and can be used for their taxes. And we're so proud of earning that.
Well, Judy, I'm going to pay for 100 of those boxes to go overseas.
Fantastic.
I'm pledging that. I'm paying for 100 of those boxes personally for those to go overseas. And
wait a minute, you didn't ask how much it was first.
I don't care. You said 10,000, 3,200. I'm figuring about $3.20 a box, $3.50 a box.
Oh, I'm going to not hold you at your word because you sound like a fine, fine man. Each box weighs 30 pounds, and we put 10 stockings in each box.
Okay.
So each box weighs 30 pounds, and each box is about $28 a box. So I promise you I will not hold you to that, because that's a little too, that would be $2,800, and I wouldn't do that to you.
Well, we'll send 10 of them.
What's what?
We'll send 10 of those boxes. We'll pay for 10 of them.
That's lovely. Thank you so much.
You bet.
It's wonderful.
You bet.
But, we've been very, very blessed that the average donation is $20.
Mm-hmm.
We have some heavy hitters, thank goodness. They're the big guys that can make a few big donations. But the average donation comes from the average wonderful person who wants to help, and we're very blessed to raise that money every year. So I'm very confident, and certainly now with your pledge, Kevin, write it down, with your pledge, Rick.
I'll give him the check. I'll give Kevin the check. Or I'll see. We're going to be working together on this, Judy.
Fantastic.
You and I, and Kevin.
So Judy, this is Kevin again. Make some time to record the public service announcement and think of the script that you would like to be in that. Because Rick is going to roll it through all of his shows on the entire network.
Yes.
And also encourage all the other contributors to run it through their own distribution kind of networks and venues. So it'll get a tremendous amount of exposure. Thank you, Rick Trader.
That is very generous and very kind, and we thank you so much because that helps a lot. And we have people, let me just mention that we work in the evenings only. So some people say, well, they want to come over during the daytime, but unfortunately, we all have jobs, we all have daytime obligations. So we are in our stocking store, which is located in Brandmar Plaza. That's also on our website. If people go to the website, go to the location. They'll see where we are and driving directions to get to us. So we're there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursday evenings, 6:30 at night until 8:30 at night. And so people can come over any time that we're open, and they can help us in all the different ways that we need.
Oh, so that's not just on November 16th?
No. We are going, the 16th is when we're going to start to stuff the stockings, and we will go until December 4th.
Yeah.
Because then we need the 3 weeks, to get the boxes. And it's so funny, the post office doesn't want me standing online anymore because I just jam up the whole works. So they are wonderful, and they send a tractor-trailer over to our facility. And as we go online to purchase the postage, we get the custom form, we load it right onto the post office trucks. So we have a great system. I'm so proud of all the smart team leaders who help us to trim our process. So we're pretty organized. I did want to just say one real thing, a quick thing. Some friends who had been visiting Wilmington after Thanksgiving, they asked if they could come in to stuff the stockings because they just didn't want any more turkey and they didn't want any more football. So we thought that was a lovely, lovely idea. So we are open the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving during the day from 11 to 3 at our same location in North Wilmington. So just in case someone would like to come over during the daytime, we have that time available.
Judy Travis, stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockingsfor, F-O-R, soldiers.org. Judy, you're a great American, and I mean that with all sincerity. Rick Trader and I send you and Stockings for Soldiers our very best.
Thank you so much for allowing me this time, and thank you for your kindness and your generosity, and I look forward to seeing you both at the stocking store.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, that wraps us up, Rick. We're coming up the end of the show. As always, I want to thank our guests, Dave McIntosh, Marlo Lewis, and Judy Travis for being with us on Conservative Commandos today. It's always great to be with you on Mondays. And as always, my friends, God bless, Godspeed, and may God save the United States of America.
The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.